Why do we make suffering look beautiful? This is the question that I ask myself. Why we humans romanticize suffering? A child grows up in poverty and we call it inspiring. A mother destroys herself for the sake of her family and we call it love, the unconditional love. A man never speaks about his pain and we call him strong. A woman tolerates humiliation for years and we call her adjusting in the societal norms. An artist becomes addicted, depressed, destroyed, unstable, and we call it genius. Humans have a strange habit. We don't just suffer, we decorate suffering. We give it music, we give it meaning, we give it captions, we give it morality, we give it a status of God. Because the truth is too ugly, sometimes pain does not make you stronger, to be very honest. Sometimes pain just takes things from you. And if we admit that, then a lot of our cultural purpose and the cultural norms collapses. Because so much of society depends on convincing people that their suffering is noble. That is why humans romanticize suffering, not because suffering is beautiful, but because meaningless pain that comes from suffering is unbearable. You need to find a meaning behind the pain that you are carrying through. And because if suffering has no meaning, then many people will have to admit that what had happened with them, what had happened to them, that was not destiny, it was just damage. And people cannot digest that. Pain without meaning is unbearable. There is a line people love saying, everything happens for a reason. जो होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है. It sounds comforting and sometimes maybe it is true, but many times that sentence is not a wisdom, it is like an anesthesia. It is something we can say because we cannot handle the possibility that some things had happened in our life for no beautiful reason at all. It just happened. It was bound to happen and it happened. A father becomes an addict and destroys his family. What is the reason? A child grows up watching fear inside his own house. What is the reason? A woman gives 20 years to a family that never respects her, and that happens to a lot in the Indian household. What is the reason? A man works his entire life, suppresses every emotion, and dies without being even understood. What is the reason? A poor person spends his whole life fighting for the equality that he deserves, fighting for the dignity, while some rich, spoiled brat, some rich idiot calls his struggle as character building. What is the reason? Sometimes there is no reason. Sometimes the only truth is this should not have happened. But humans, humans hate that sentence, to be very honest. We humans hate it because this should not have happened sentence, this should not have happened. It creates anger, it creates grief, it creates responsibility. It asks who allowed this? Why did it happen in the first place? Who benefited from this? Who ignored this? Who normalized this? So instead of saying this was unfair, we say this made me strong. Instead of saying I was abandoned, we say I learned independence. Instead of saying nobody protected me, we say I became a warrior. And listen, I understand why we do it. Because I became strong gives you identity, it gives you the dignity back after the damage that you have endured. I was damaged, make you feel powerless. If you will accept that I was damaged, it makes you feel powerless. That's the power of the subconscious mind. What you believe is what you get. So the human mind does what it has always done. It takes pain and turns it into a beautiful story. Because a story can be survived, but random pain cannot. When the story becomes a prison, that is where the problem happens. I mean, the problem begins when the story becomes a prison in such a way that after some time, people don't just survive their suffering, they start identifying with it. They don't say, I went through pain. They say, I'm the person who suffered. That becomes the identity. The pain, the suffering. If someone is going through a mental illness, of course it's a pain and suffering, but somehow we humans start to attaching our identification with that illness. That damaged one, the betrayed one, the self-made one, the misunderstood one, the lonely genius, the broken lover, the one-sided lover, the silent man, the sacrificial woman, the person nobody believed in. And once suffering becomes identity like these tags, healing becomes scary. But then the question is, if I'm not my pain, who am I? If I'm not the person who was betrayed, what is left? If I'm not the person who struggle, what makes me special? If I am not the victim, what role do I play now? That is why some people unconsciously protect their suffering. They keep returning to the same emotional patterns. I mean, same toxic relationships, same anger, same loneliness, same story. Because pain is familiar and we chase familiar things. And familiar pain feels safer than the unfamiliar peace. That is the dark truth of the human psychology. Sometimes people don't romanticize suffering because they love pain, they romanticize it because without pain they feel ordinary. And being ordinary terrifies us humans. Society actually uses this noble pain to avoid the consequences of guilt. Now, society also has a reason to romanticize suffering, as I said, because if your suffering is noble, then the society does not have to feel the guilt or does not have to feel guilty about it. Think about it, when a poor student studies under a street light, we call it inspiring. We see his struggle and we get inspired by it. But why is that child studying under the street light at first place? Why? I mean, why is the basic electricity missing? Or why is poverty treated like a beautiful origin story? In the internet right now, everyone is talking about how it's difficult to be in India as an expat or as a foreign traveler, and we comment saying that India is not for beginners, this and that. We make so beautiful stories regarding the fact that, oh, in Mumbai local trains, we travel across from one part of the Mumbai to another in that jam-packed local train, and somehow we have started to make it look beautiful. But why? It's suffering. It's inhuman. Such a crowded, cramped place where people are just hanging by that small, tiny rod and on the verge of dying if they slip their hands away, and we romanticize it specifically. I mean, why do we clap for struggle? As I said, why do we clap for struggle instead of asking why the struggle was necessary? A man works 3 jobs, he never sees his children. We call him hardworking. The same man who is working the 3 jobs to protect his children, to give a living to his children, he cannot spend a time with his own children. We call it hardworking and we just label it great dad. But we don't see that this struggle, which is necessary because of his circumstances, is so brutal. He is trapped. A mother sacrifices everything for her family, we call her divine. But maybe she was never given a choice. A woman keeps adjusting in a marriage where nobody respects her, and we call her mature, we call her adjusting. But maybe she was emotionally buried alive. I mean, this is very common in the Indian household. Many women are there in an emotionless marriage. Many men too. And they're emotionally buried alive. They have married for the sake of family. They have kids because the family said so. And that's it. That's the whole construction of their marriage. A man never cries. You know, society has still not normalized men crying. A man never cries and we call him strong. But maybe he's just emotionally abandoned by everyone around him. Maybe the societal construct that has created has made him emotionally abandoned. This is how the culture manipulates people. It takes suffering created by broken systems and turns it into a virtue. So the person suffering feels proud instead of angry. When the person is suffering and when he sees that the whole society has made it look like a virtue, instead of asking questions and feeling sad about it or trying to introspect about it, he'll just feel proud. Instead of feeling angry, he feels proud. It takes the suffering that the system has created, and the people benefiting from the suffering feels comfortable instead of responsible. That is why the phrase struggle builds character is dangerous. Sometimes struggle builds character, but sometimes struggles build trauma. Sometimes struggle builds bitterness. Sometimes struggles build addiction. Sometimes struggle builds a person who cannot receive love properly. Sometimes struggle builds a man who knows how to survive. He can survive, but he doesn't know how to live. But society does not like that version. Society wants the motivational version, the high dopamine, high adrenaline version, the clean version, the version where your pain becomes a quote, becomes a poem. Because if your suffering becomes inspirational, nobody has to fix the conditions that they have created. Indian families, as I said, especially are experts at romanticizing suffering. We worship sacrifice, we call it duty, we call it sanskar. We call it family values, we call it patience, we call it adjustment, but many times what we call sacrifice is just one person being slowly erased for everyone else's convenience. Women are the one who get to this burnt end more often than men, but men do as well. A mother is praised because she eats last. But why would she eat last every day? And I was seeing this podcast of the stand-up comedian who was saying that whenever I go back home, even if it's midnight or something, I wake up my mom and tell her to serve me food because that's her only purpose. But why? Why you made it so normal that it's her only purpose, that even when you have entered and you have two hands and you have feet and you are like a physically able person, you can go out and you can get your food and you can eat because it's past midnight, but you want to wake her up so that she can serve you the food and she will happily do it. She's mother. Her whole conditioning has been made in that sense. The society has made her like that, and you are not validating her by doing this. You are just validating the societal norms that have been created. You're not doing anything to make her feel good. You are just validating her existence, that the society has already given her the tag that you are a woman, you're a married woman, you're a woman of the Indian household, so you do sacrifice, eat at last, serve everyone, and don't expect anything else. This is the thing. We Indian families do that a lot. A son is praised because he carries the whole family, but who carries him? And these are the same sons who carries the whole family, makes infrastructure for their family, then they get married, and then they make the help for their whole own family, his own wife, his own kids. And this is normal story in the Indian household. A father is praised because he never expresses pain, but why does nobody care what he feels? These are the questions we should ask. A daughter-in-law is praised because she adjusts, but why is adjustment always expected from the same side? We have built entire moral systems where the person who suffers silently is called good, and the person who says this is unfair, I don't support this, he or she is called selfish or rebellious or asanskari. Yeah, that's the Hindi word. That is not morality actually, that is societal control, that is the social control, because a person who romanticizes suffering becomes easier to exploit. If you can convince someone that their pain is noble, you can keep giving them that same pain and they will call it duty. The internet also has played a very vital role in making this suffering aesthetic. You know, when the internet came, internet did not reduce suffering, it made suffering aesthetic. Not every pain needs packaging. Heartbreak is not heartbreak anymore, it is a villain arc. Loneliness is not loneliness anymore, which is a, loneliness is an epidemic, right? But it's not, it is a stigma energy. It's like a sigma energy thing. It's like if you're lonely, then you are going to be sigma someday, with all these reels and edits that are made around it. Depression is not depression anymore, it has become a dark aesthetic. Childhood trauma is not just trauma, it is a content. Failure is not a failure, it is a comeback story loading. Everything has become too cinematic. Everything has to be posted, edited, captioned, converted into identity. People don't heal anymore, they brand their wounds. And this is where suffering becomes part of the rage economy, because the internet rewards the emotional activation of the brain. Peace does not go viral, anger goes viral, hatred goes viral, betrayal goes viral, humiliation goes viral, revenge goes viral, pain goes viral. A peaceful person will log off, he will see internet for some point of time and log off, but a wounded person will keeps on scrolling, an angry person will keeps on commenting, a lonely person keeps searching, a bitter person will keeps on consuming. So the internet has no incentive to heal you, it never had. It has incentive to keep you wounded enough to stay you logged in on their social media apps, to make you stay engaged, not destroyed, not healed, just emotionally infected, just enough to keep the pain, enough to keep it clicking, just enough anger to keep reacting, just enough loneliness to make you keep coming back. This is why today every influencer is selling a different flavor of suffering. The motivational guy says they laughed at you, now become successful. The guys on internet, like, every person has a different struggle, but there are guys on the internet, it's like, oh yeah, you are suffering through this, get up, start working. Maybe some cannot, I'm sorry, but some have gone through so much suffering in their mental faculties that they need external help before trying to analyze what wrong is there, and then they can get up and work. But it has been made so easy, like, they laughed at you, now become successful. The dating coach, they says, she left you, now become dangerous, become the sigma male, alpha male, omega, whatever. The political influencer says they hate people like us, stay angry. The self-help guy says your trauma explains everything, and then they will like offer you a course to buy. The aesthetic pages says nobody understands you. The algorithm says, oh, you have pain? Here's more pain similar to you. Come, consume it. And slowly, suffering stops being something you want to escape, and it becomes the place where your personality lives. Suffering becomes superiority. This is the another uncomfortable reasons humans romanticize suffering. Suffering gives people superiority, not financial superiority, not beauty or aesthetic superiority, not moral superiority, uh, but moral superiority in a very different way. People say, I suffered more, so I understand life better. You had it easy. You don't feel the pain that I do. My struggle was real, yours was nothing. And suddenly, every suffering becomes a competition. Humans are addicted to hierarchy, so they have made this hierarchical level in their sufferings as well. If they cannot be above you in money, they will try to be above you in intelligence. If they cannot be above you in intelligence, they will try to be above you in morality. If not by morality, then by trauma. Every pain becomes a ladder. Every suffering becomes an hierarchy. Who had the worst childhood? Who was betrayed the most? Who struggled alone? Who came from nothing? Who had nobody? And yes, some people generally suffer more than others. I personally know. That is true. But the dark part is when suffering becomes ego. When people don't want healing, they want recognition. They don't want peace. They want the world to admit that they had worse. They don't just want to be understood, they want to win the pain Olympics. Because if your pain is bigger than mine, then you're above me. I cannot tolerate that. This connects to one of the ugliest truths about human beings. Human needs someone beneath them, even when it comes to pain and suffering. Sometimes people use caste for that, sometimes race, sometimes class, sometimes gender, sometimes education, nationality, and sometimes suffering. Even the wounded person may want someone beneath them. Someone they call privileged, someone they can dismiss, someone whose pain they can minimize. Because if everyone's pain is real, then their own pain stops feeling special. And that is terrifying for people who have built their entire identity around being the one who has suffered. And this is the main crux of it. We also confuse suffering with depth. We look at the tortured artists, the depressed philosophers, the addicted musicians, the lonely genius, and we think pain automatically makes you or makes these people profound. But pain does not automatically makes you wise. Pain can make you wise, definitely it can. But pain can also make you cruel. Pain can make you compassionate, but pain can also make you manipulative. Um, Pain can make you humble, but pain can also make you narcissistic. Pain can make you spiritual, but pain can also make you addicted to darkness. This is what people don't like hearing. Being hurt does not automatically make you a good person. You can be victim in one chapter and villain in another. And this happens a lot in the modern dating. I see there are some guys or girls who think, oh, this girl is so damaged, oh, this guy is so damaged, maybe I can heal him, maybe I can heal her, and they go in that relationship, and the person who were there trying to help, they walk away and they become the damaged self. That's what I'm saying. Someone can be a victim in one chapter and can be villain in another. You can suffer deeply and still damage other people. You can be traumatized and still become abusive. You can be lonely and still become selfish. You can be rejected and still become hateful. Suffering is not university where everyone graduates with wisdom. Some people suffer for 20 years and learn nothing except how to spread that suffering further. That is why pain should be respected but not worshipped. Because pain is powerful, but power transform you or corrupt you. And this is my biggest issue with romantic suffering, romanticizing of the suffering. We act suffering is the only path to depth, and I ask the question why. But why? Why do we believe a person has to be broken before they become interesting? Why do we respect pain more than peace? Why do we trust the wounded person more than the joyful person? Why do we think trauma creates wisdom but love doesn't? Maybe love can create depth too. Love is a very powerful emotion. Maybe safety can create depth. Maybe encouragement can create depth. Maybe a peaceful home environment can create depth. Maybe a person who does not need to be destroyed first to become meaningful. But we don't like that idea. But if peace can build character, then we have to stop glorifying pain, and our whole society loves glorifying pain. If love can build strength, then we have to stop telling people that they needed the abuse. If the stability can create wisdom, then we have to stop saying your suffering was necessary. Maybe it was not necessary. Maybe you could have become strong without being humiliated, without being abused. Maybe you could have become wise without being betrayed. Maybe you could have become disciplined without fear. Maybe you could have become deep without trauma. Maybe the pain did not make you who you are. Maybe you become who you are despite the pain. The difference matters, because if you say pain made you, then you may start thinking and you may start thanking the very same thing that harmed you in the first place. But if you say you survived despite the pain, then you take the power back, because it's you who made the change. You do not glorify the wound, you honor the survivor. And that's important for us to remember. So what should we do with suffering? Like, this is the question, like, what should we do with suffering? If someone is, because suffering is inevitable, then what should we do with it? We should not deny it. That will be childish. Suffering is real, loss is real, addiction is real, poverty is real, racism is real, caste humiliation is real, family trauma is real, loneliness is real. And yes, suffering can teach you things. It can strip your illusions. It can make you more compassionate. It can show you who you really are and who the people that you surround, how they are. It can reveal the truth about people. It can force you to grow. But suffering should be a teacher. It should not have the status of God. You listen to it, you learn from it, then you leave the classroom. You don't build your house there. You don't build your temple over there. You don't keep bleeding just because people clapped when you were in pain. You don't stay broken because broken has become your aesthetic. This happens with a lot of artists, who are underground artists, and then they become mainstream. And then people is like, oh, he was good when he was underground. I don't know why he became mainstream. Yeah, because he wanted to have money, financial stability, so that he can carry on his more art. But we as society don't accept it. You don't need to stay broken to, this broken aesthetics thing. You don't need that. You don't need to keep calling yourself damaged, because that is the only version of you that people paid attention to. You don't need that. You're allowed to heal. And healing does not make your pain was fake. Healing does not mean what happened to you was okay. Healing does not mean you are betraying your past. It means you are refusing to let the worst thing that has happened to you become the most important thing about you. That is the real strength. Not becoming cold, not becoming savage, not becoming monster, not entering a villain arc. Real strength is suffering and still refusing to become cruel. Real strength is being hurt and still not worshipping the hurt. Real strength is being damaged and still trying to become human again, because we are humans. So why do humans romanticize suffering? Because pain without meaning is terrifying, because suffering gives identity, because society uses noble pain to avoid guilt, because culture rewards the silent sacrifice, because the internet turns your wounds into content so that you can relate to it, because people use suffering to feel superior, because we confuse damage with depth, because sometimes calling a pain beautiful is the only way we know how to survive it. But maybe the goal is to not romanticize suffering. Maybe the goal is to tell truth about it. Some pain teaches you, some pain breaks you, some pain deepens you, some pain makes you worse. Some pain has meaning, some pain was just unfair. And maturity is knowing the difference. So don't let anyone, I would like to say that, don't let anyone turn your suffering into a motivational poster too quickly. Don't let society call your wound beautiful before it admits who caused it, why it happened in the first place. Don't let the internet turn your trauma into your personality. And don't let your pain become the only interesting thing about you. Because you are deep, not because you have suffered, you are deep because you have gained your consciousness. You are deep if you can suffer and still refuse to become cruel. You are strong if you can survive pain without worshipping it. And maybe the real victory is not becoming a monster after suffering. Maybe the real victory is just becoming the human self again. We have to become the human self again. After all the sufferings, all the things that we go through, that's the only thing that matters. We don't need to romanticize suffering. We need to respect it, understand it, and when possible, leave it behind.